gentlemen, and welcome to the American Scouser podcast. Monday night, we are back in action at our regular time, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. If you're listening to the podcast and want to put some ugly faces to the sounds, you are able to by tuning into YouTube or throughout the week. And if you are, just give us a subscribe and a follow while you're at it. I am your host, as always, Tim Wichin here in Chicago. I'll do the weather update. It's nasty. It's just freaking summer. It's just freaking nasty. Humid, nasty, and everything. We are tonight, by the way, on Instagram as well. So welcome to all those following us on Instagram and like hopping on, throw in your comments, join in the conversation. Kind of like Gally is. Gally, what's happening?
Oh, I'm doing great. Welcome to the Gram. I mean, everyone out there, come on, just get in, get your comments going. That makes it even harder for the host, which is always what I'm rooting for. Difficulties for the host. No, but all seriousness, weather's not as bad here in Western Massachusetts. New England had that hot humidity for a while. We finally got a little cool front. Had some rain the last couple days, especially today. It rained pretty much all day on and off. And let me tell you, it needed it because my lawn looked like someone set it on fire. And I've been trying to keep it up and keep it watered, and there was absolutely no chance. So the rain today was a little bit of a blessing, though it can stop now because, well, it's muddy outside and it's not spring, so I'm basically done with that.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, when it rains, it just becomes a greenhouse effect over here. So it just becomes worse. Alan is joining us. Hello, Alan. Hi, Gally. You shaved for the show tonight. Looking good. Okay. So
Alan, I didn't shave for the show, my friend. I shaved for Houston. Okay. Purely for Houston.
Dean says, just found this channel. Welcome aboard, sir. Give a follow, a like. Blake is with us. Hello, Blake. Luke is joining us from Instagram too. We're either of you guys at the Pittsburgh game. He says the atmosphere was insane, and let's see, Pittsburgh did an amazing job hosting events. So welcome aboard, Luke. That's interesting, actually, because I'm glad to kind of hear that, because when I watched the game, it did feel, at least from TV, that it was very quiet. And I don't know if that's because it was Real Betis, and obviously, Pittsburgh is not crawling with like Real Betis fans, so it was more of like it was more of a Liverpool environment than anything else. I wish they would just like blow it all up, do the tickets more affordable, and pack that place with Liverpool fans, and like get that place really rocking. But we'll talk a lot about the game. What did you make of the atmosphere? Like I say, from the TV, it seemed a lot more quiet. Then again, you couldn't hear shit from the commentator talking literally every single goddamn second. So there is that. Maybe we just couldn't hear the fans over his ass, but that's a different story.
We will get to more about the coverage that you were so adamant about. Anyone who listened this morning knows how much you were a fan of the commentators, both color and play-by-play. No, I think the atmosphere was okay. I think this is what happens when you have a friendly in the United States, in middle America, where there's only a moderate amount of one team supporters in that area.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know that there are enough diehard Liverpool fans to fill Acrisure Stadium, otherwise known as where the Steelers play every week, right? I don't know that would happen, even with lower prices, to be honest. Because it's also not like it's Columbus. It's not Philadelphia. It's not a city that also is known for its soccer heritage and for supporting different types of soccer clubs or teams that have come through it. So, like, I don't know much about Pittsburgh supporting soccer, to be honest. I think Liverpool wanted a base that was close to Philadelphia, because to me, this Philadelphia stop was the main focus of this trip. It was Pittsburgh, Philly, and South Carolina.
Yeah.
Those are two small markets and one massive market. And I think it's all about Philly here. But I think the atmosphere was okay. I think it could have been a lot better, but I thought it was okay. Stadium's always going to seem quiet if only 60% have bodies and seats.
I mean, I think this could have been probably planned while Klopp was in charge, because I'm assuming he was not a big fan of the travel. So I'm assuming it is kind of done in a way where they can kind of stay within close, hit still multiple cities, be able to access a lot more fans and stuff like that. But they didn't want to do, West Coast, East Coast, middle, and stuff like that, and kind of like have this team do too much traveling. Matthew says Pittsburgh was a weird choice. Would have been better started if it was Cincinnati instead in the area. That is a good call too, but I'm sure there are a lot of people from Pittsburgh who were extremely happy to have it over there. But yeah, Cincinnati, I know, or maybe that's what they felt. They already have soccer going on over there. But Luke says, well, you have to remember FSG owns the Penguins. So that's the reason they came out. I did not actually realize they own the Penguins as well. Do they? God damn.
They do. They bought the Penguins last year, and in classic fashion, just like Red Sox fans a few years ago and Liverpool fans a few years before that, whenever FSG spends any money anywhere else, everyone is like, they're just ruining my team. And I just find it comical because now we have multiple places for them to complain to, right? Like the Red Sox, the Penguins, the racing team in NASCAR, right? Like, no matter where they spend their money. But ultimately, it doesn't seem like for any of those teams they spend any money on players, so we can just all complain.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. I totally forgot that they had that, but Luke has a good point. That's probably could be one of the reasons why they chose one over the other one, because they did do Boston one time, didn't they?
They did. They've done it twice. When they first bought the team, I think they thought they needed to own when they came to America to promote them. And then I think they quickly realized,
you don't need any promotion for us.
These guys are bigger than even the Red Sox, which are a big team here in America, right? And so I'm not trying to diminish that. I think Fenway Park doesn't bode the best atmosphere, and there isn't when they played at Fenway, it felt like an exhibition because they were in a baseball stadium, so the field was small. At least here, they're trying to play in bigger football-style stadiums so that the pitch is at least closer to regulation and gives them a little bit more of a normal feel. I think if there was a soccer-specific stadium in Boston, they'd probably come every time. Yeah. But I don't think it's necessary. And plus now, they're getting TV rights from ESPN because soccer's taking off here. When those matches were happening, those were being played on regional television in New England.
True.
To show those teams. And by the way, FSG owns the regional television company in New England.
FSG owns it all, people. I'm going to get to Reynard's question. He wants to know about, signing anybody and the expectations for the team. So I'm going to get to that. But let's focus on the team. John says he did see them in 2014. Oh, man, when I see these, years now, it just feels like I'm older and older and older.
AS Roma. It was AS.
Is that who it was? I was like, God. I mean,
it was either Sevilla
the game or something. Otherwise, how the hell do you guys remember this?
I went to one of them. It was either Sevilla or Roma, one or the other. They both played at Fenway Park over a 2-year period.
I got you. Alan says, bring on a game with me in Liverpool and Wrexham. I'm sure that's in the works somewhere over here. So let's start with the game first. Champions League will be satisfying considering the changes as well. Man, I don't know. That's another topic by itself. Let's start with the game first. Talk about the game, what we saw, and then I do want to get to how it's. I know it's a small sample size, but we can kind of look at the bigger picture. Bickler is having technical difficulties, I think. So hopefully when he pays his electric bill or the internet bill, and he can join us as well. But let's start with the game. Before we talked, last week when we were talking about the game, I made you guys pick certain players that we would keep an eye on more than others, perhaps, and kind of try to evaluate performances. Yours was?
I think I was Carvalho.
Yes, I asked one, and I remember you just went on a shopping spree and picked 10 names as always. But
it was Carvalho, and the one who was my number one and most important, all 27 minutes of him, Curtis Jones.
Yes, you guys jinxed Curtis Jones, or he jinxed himself. I don't know which way to look at that, because he kind of was all hyper, and then I don't think it's a horrible injury, but it's a bad time to get it just because, this is the time where you build up, and obviously if you have to be held back for one reason or another and kind of being monitored, it's a different story. But so what did you make out of it? Out of the game, what is your biggest takeaway? Alan was saying it was Slots barking left and right on the sidelines. But what was your biggest takeaway?
Well, I absolutely think that there is a difference between Arne Slot and Jurgen Klopp. I think when Klopp would yell out on the sideline to Alan's point, when Klopp would coach from a sideline, it was more like, "Yeah, Harvey." It was like supportive of what they were doing right, or like demonstrative, but not really telling them what they were doing wrong. It was just calling out that he knew they made a mistake, like they understood what they were supposed to do, so they knew like how to correct things. And I feel like Slot is actually coaching, like flat out coaching from the technical area. He's yelling out tactics, he's telling people where to be. There's this big thing where players are being assigned assistant coaches whose whole job is to focus on them during training and matches. So there was one coach who was going up and down the wing with Carvalho the entire match.
Well, he didn't get very tired.
Well, supposedly, yeah, exactly. He didn't move much. Supposedly, he was very happy at the end of the day overall with the performance, and he's been training great. But he was like yelling nonstop because I think he's just trying to like pound in the fact that his tactics have to be understood. Like, if you're going to play that Guardiola style, I think you have to be in the right place and do the right things.
I think it's more than the style. I think it's a matter of how long you've done it, right? It's like, it's like disciplining your kids versus disciplining other people's kids. You can kind of like, if something's being done, it's almost like better because you've done it, Klopp has coached for 7-8 years. So when you're not pressing when you should be, Klopp can be like, bro. And then, all is said. Like, all you have to do is said. I mean, if something happened and if I said, if I saw something the kids were doing, and if I say, Jasmine, if she knows she was doing something wrong, I don't have to like spell that where it's like if some kid visiting, I'd be like, we don't do that freaking here. Don't maybe beat your ass in my own house kind of a thing. So I think it's a matter of, it's a lot easier for Klopp to basically say, hey, what are you doing? That's not what we do. And better, as opposed to Slot has to be a lot more hands-on. And I kind of do like that in the beginning, especially has to be a lot more hands-on showing these things. But you said Carvalho. So let's start with Carvalho. When we were talking about him on, I think it was like Friday morning show with Kazi, one of the things I said is, that was the player I picked to watch. And I felt like, based on where he's playing and what he's asked to do, would kind of tell me, like, if we're really seriously looking at him or we're just like biding time, he's just under the body in the camp. Now, based on the players available, it's not like we had wingers. Lucas talking about like how the wingers were playing and stuff, but we know from the Klopp era, he is not good on the wing. He is not a winger. He does not have the pace. He's more like better in probably, playing behind the striker, attacking mid or whatever that case might be. He's not really a wing player. He was over there. I don't know, man. I'm finding I want to like him but I'm just finding it hard to watch and support him because his demeanor, I don't know why, but comes across almost like petulance. And I know he's making a lot of runs where he did not get the ball. So that could be part of the frustration. He was making those runs and the ball was not going there. And I understand that, but it just felt like he just seems like maybe it's like a notion that I have in my head, but he just doesn't seem happy with what he's doing or comfortable with what he's doing.
No, I completely agree. His own words have spoken that. His actions have spoken that. I mean, he believes he is a world-class, like Messi-like number 10. And I think that's his biggest problem. He probably is like a low-level, really good attacking midfielder who could.
I was going to say, let's not put him up there, but okay.
But I think he believes he's actually that, though. I think he thinks at every level he's at or any team he's on, he's the best creative midfielder. He should be a big star. And let's be honest, he had a year at 18 years old in the Premier League where he scored double-digit goals. So he has proven that he can do this. He's proven he is an enormous talent. It just doesn't make sense in this system. And the fact that Slot said to him, I see you as a winger. You should focus on being a winger. And then his immediate response as a kid who has tried to find his way at a club was, I heard the manager, but I know my position and I'm a 10. I mean,
yeah,
it's almost, I went on 2 loans. One was bad, one was good. I learned nothing either time.
and that's the thing. Oh, here's the quote right here. I was trying to pull that up. He says, "So we spoke about it, and Slot told me to try and settle on the wing, but obviously I know where I play best, and I feel that as a number 10, just going to do what he wants me to do and just work as I can." Basically, he was like, "I'll put in my shifts. I get paid by the hour, and then we'll probably go." But I don't know if that was one of those scenarios where Slot told him to do what he can on the wing, because we don't have a winger and we didn't have a lot of attackers on the bench either. So we got to play everybody, and that's the only spot. So you're going to have to play there. Just do what you can. Like, I know, I didn't understand. Did you take that comment as Slot told him he's in the long-term plan as a winger, if he's in the long-term plan? Or, hey, man, nobody's here. No Gakpo, no Nunez, no Diaz. We don't have anybody in the wing. So do what you can on the wing. We'll figure it out when we go back home, kind of a thing. Just eat that sandwich. We'll talk about it when we get home.
To be honest, I can't really tell by that comment, because the comment to me genuinely seems, first of all, let's just clear this up right now.
This son of a bitch, this Gally was about to be the next Carly Lloyd with that whole
just so we're clear,
Messi.
Carly Lloyd actually compared an American player to Messi. In her words, he could be the next Messi. I said Carvalho believes he is an attacking number 10 like Messi. There's a huge difference there. One is an arrogant young kid. The other is an arrogant American. Oh, wait. Shit. That might be talking about me. Damn you, Matouche. Where was I going with that? No, but I think the problem with Carvalho right now is that he wants to assert himself, and he knows this is make or break moments for him. And by the time he gets to play in the 10 role where he wants to be, he's going to be 6th choice of those 2 number 10s, because he had to play for an American tour on the left wing, because a bunch of guys went deep.
We're spreading this out. We are spreading this out. I mean, the rest is just this will make a great soundbite we can throw out there. It'll probably get like 15,000 views, and then there'll be a bunch of people. There are already a couple on Instagram right here calling. I don't know. I get offended when people are calling me to shut up, Yank, because it says the Turkish one underneath my name over here. But but yeah, you'll get a lot of those.
I'm the Yank.
He's the Yank. Yeah. So please name names. Name names when you insult people. Yeah. But no.
Call all the names you want. You can just call me Gally. It's pretty much insulted. Don't worry.
You think he's on the left wing because that's what he's thought there, or he's on the left wing because of lack of options?
I think he's on the left wing because of lack of options, but I don't think he would have gotten a lot of minutes in the 10 hole.
Okay.
In that match, even if he wasn't on the left wing.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, that was my thing. First, my initial thought was, if we're putting him there, we're probably not thinking about him, because I mean, he himself says he's not a winger. We've seen him that he's not a winger before, and that's why he didn't last with Klopp either. And I don't know. I think Matouche himself has said it on one of the Monday morning shows, where if you need somebody for that role, there are players in your squad that are better suited for it than Carvalho before you come to Carvalho. And this could be one of those where you get him out there, get him some playing time, get some more eyes on him, and put a price tag on him and put him on the shelf, kind of an ordeal as well. Dean is talking about, based on the game, where should we sign a player to? We got a lot of missing players, but this is a time to see where we need depth. So here's the thing. All along, everybody has been talking about, everybody in the world, I think we're the only team, by the way, who has not signed a player in the Premier League. So high fives all around.
No. Only team to not sign a player in the top 5 leagues of Europe.
Ooh, even better, even more special. That's how special we are. But so all along, we've been talking about, needing a defensive midfielder, number 6. Anybody you ask, you can ask, Stitch or Leo, they'll probably be like, you guys need the number 6. But looking at this game, and I've been doing a lot of homework on Feyenoord over here, I almost feel like looking at this game and looking at Endo, and I know he had like a horrible game and stuff like that, but I'm getting more and more the feeling as I look at the number 6 and how Slot uses number 6. I think we have players for that number 6, and I really don't think we're looking for a player that everybody else is looking for, like a similar to a Fabinho or something like that. Based on how that play is being built with that crowding of the midfield, you need somebody who can play in tight spaces, be able to control the ball, move the ball fast, and then be able to chip it over the top to like a sprinting Nunez, Mo, or like Diaz. And that's not really Endo. That's really like when we were watching about the qualities, like I say, we're watching a video with Angie first, and then I went on like a 2-3 hour thing of not watching nothing but Feyenoord midfield videos. It says McAllister all over it, or it says that kind of a player all over it, not the number 6 that I think most people envision.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think if you're thinking that he's going to play with some form of, if you watch a lot of those videos, and my wife went away for 4 days to visit her parents. So I watched, and you talked about it
party
last
at
week.
the galleys.
No, so I watched a bunch. Yeah, party at the galleys basically means I watch a bunch of YouTube videos as referred to by you. I go into a freaking hole of watching Dutch league football. But I saw the same thing. I saw multiple deep line midfielders making plays and guys dropping back and forth. It made me think, if we're going to play with this double pivot or some form of having deep lying midfielders, I could see a combination of guys like Gravenberch or McAllister, even Jones. The way you saw Jones in those first 20 minutes or so, he was playing deeper with Endo at that time. And I thought Jones was doing really well. All the positive things were going through him. I think Kazi mentioned it on Friday, how he just absolutely fits this slot type of possession midfield. He doesn't give the ball away, which is why I was kind of gutted for him. And you could hear it in Jones' press conference, how excited he was that the manager was putting a lot of actual emphasis on possession and creating with short passes and movement. Because I think Jones felt at some times like he was marginalized in that midfield with Klopp, because he was just asked to run and be Jordan Henderson at times. Yeah. And he was like, I'm Curtis Jones. I'm more of a footballer than this. I can do a little more than that. So for me, Jones being hurt, I think it's really interesting to see what happens with the midfield.
Yeah, I mean, I think Alan is saying by Setic if Ando leaves, which I guess it came out that there were bids for him that we kind of like shut down, but that was like a month ago. I don't think, anybody's looking at that one game and be like, no, he's sold kind of a thing. But could Jones play a couple of games there? And I think that's what I mean. We're looking for more of that kind of player there, as opposed to a Fabinho type person. We aren't signing anyone, lads, but at the same time, that will sell either. See, I think Aaron is wrong on the selling part, and I think we will sign. I don't think we're signing a lot of players. I almost feel like we're trying to figure out what the hell we have. Yeah, probably 2 based on what we sell, kind of a thing. And I'm okay with that. I guess as we get more of these games, like James was asking on Instagram about the Arsenal game, as we watch more and more of this team and see what we're trying to do, I think there's going to be some growing pains, that's for sure. And you're hoping that for us to have a good season, you're going to have some of your bigger names carry you through those growing pains. And then once things settle down, things can really click on this team. I know nobody's good enough for Saido, but even he is selling Carvalho. I think, for example, a Carvalho player, that'll be gone. Here's an interesting one that I guess PSV made an offer for. We just laughed it off. But there will be more people coming for him. And I know that was one of the players we mentioned in terms of watching this game is Sepp. What did you make of his game?
I thought Sepp played well. I thought he was tidy on the ball. I thought he showed a lot of improvement in his speed and his overall quickness. We used to talk about him turning like a tugboat or a sailboat or whatever we used to say. I thought he was much better, and he's shown that his time away on loan has absolutely benefited him. I also think anytime a young player like him speaks, you have to listen to what they say to hear the truth. And he talked about how he wants to be at Liverpool if he can play, but if he can't play, he feels like he needs to go. And I think when it comes to a center back, you have to play to get the experience. I don't think you get that experience as a center back training with Liverpool and making 9 appearances. If he's going to make 15 or 20 appearances this year, maybe it's worth staying. But if he's fourth, fifth choice as center back, I don't blame him for pushing for a move so he can continue his progression. Because let's say he goes to PSV and he plays for 2 years and does really, really well. There's probably a move to like a big club in Italy or a club in Germany. He's proven he can do this on the continent at this point, in my opinion. I just don't know if he's good enough yet to beat out the money that's invested in Konate or Virgil van Dijk.
And that's the only thing. If he is staying, he has to. I mean, he will be the number 4/5 based on how you're utilizing Gomez. Obviously, you're gonna have Konate and Kwanzaa there. It depends on if you're counting, Gomez as a center back or as a right back, left back kind of a guy, or what we had him as last year. Sepp has matured, says Alan. One thing I liked, I did think he has matured in terms of physically. He was a lot more dominant, especially in the air. I thought he got a lot better. One thing that I do like watching from him is how he is on the ball. I kind of talked about this a little bit in the morning, but like what makes Van Dijk, I think, special, and the thing that he lost slightly when he came back from injury was like he would clear the ball, but he would clear the ball. The thing that makes Van Dijk really special is the best Van Dijk that we see is he puts that ball, he cuts off an attack and he puts the ball back in play and starts almost a counter. Like he brings him down to Robertson where Robertson can run with it, or he cuts it he kind of like breaks it to the other side where Trent can go with it instead of just Nat Phillipsing it, if you will, putting his head everywhere, but then just heading it away, but anywhere will do kind of a thing. One thing I saw from Sepp is he's very good with that. There were a lot of balls he cut off with a one-touch pass to a midfielder or something like that. So I really do like that. You can see he's very comfortable with the ball on his feet, probably because he played like wing back and stuff like that as well, which I'm shocked that he has played back because he doesn't look that fast. But I think we will get more games to see. He is the same thing as Carvalho, though, right? Do you think he's there if we had, for example, Konate there, if we had Gomez there, or is he just there because somebody's going to play center back?
I think he'd still be getting a shot right now for 2 reasons. One, so the manager can run the rule on him and decide, do I have a player and does he save me 45, 50 million to go buy Ignacio from Sporting? And I think also he's there because we need a fucking center back. Where do I think he'll be at the end of August? Probably on his way out of the club, because I think he's going to angle for a move. And I think he's kind of done it quietly. Even recently, he said all the good things. Things have changed here. I'm playing now. They're talking to me about a future. If this is my future, it's my dream. And then like a minute later, the reporter said, so when you heard the price tag was 20 million, what do you think? He said, I thought it was high and extortion. Like,
which is really odd that a player would say that and be like, I'm not worth 20. I mean, we were talking with Mateus Staffing this morning. They're like, I Googled myself. Transfer market has me at 12 or something like that.
And that's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? I think we always question, like, shouldn't these players want to stay and fight for their spot? But then we say, like, if I were a player, when we're talking about other teams' players, we're like, if I was that guy, I'd want to go somewhere else where I could play. And you're like, but if I could play at Liverpool, I'd sit on the bench and fight for my, like, because of the passion.
But the price tag you rarely have. I don't have a problem with the guy saying, I want to go somewhere where I'm going to play. I just find it odd that a player would kind of present his value like that. I mean, if I understand the concept and somebody is putting too much, price on you, maybe not to make you sellable or whatever. If anything, I would say I'm kind of flattered that, that's what Liverpool values me at and the potential they see in me, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying it's extortion. I'm not worth that much because that just does not sound like a confident player to me.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I just think the player himself wants to play football. And I think his agent's telling him ways you can do this is agitate without saying, you need to sell me, I'm going to hand in a transfer request because the agent wants his transfer fees. But like, I think this is a little bit of the agent too and the player kind of working the room. They're trying to angle Liverpool to accept 15 million from PSV, which I think would be PSV's like record signing, if I'm not mistaken,
I think
somewhere
something
close to.
around those lines. Yeah, it's a lot for them. Even as is, it's kind of like a lot of money they're putting in. Which shouldn't that make you feel as a player that, hey man, I'm making it.
Yeah, oh, I'd feel great about it. I think this guy is confused and a little conflicted in himself, almost like Matoush is in the comments as he just keeps spewing more and more things for
That's
us
why
to
you
review.
should stop reading the comments. Don't worry about Matoush.
No, that's a good one, though. I threw me off. I'm being honest. That's why everyone needs to know why I got confused.
Phillips is the hero we need. Phillips is the guy we don't need for anything. I mean, if somebody's gonna be going, I mean, especially watching the system, definitely Phillips is gonna be one of those guys that's gonna go. And I feel like we kind of missed the boat on Phillips, because
Phillips,
go ahead.
Phillips. No, I was going to say to Sir Z's point. Phillips is actually the prime example of why Sepp should try to angle for a move. Phillips had a moment where like he was talked about and people talked about him getting transfers to like moderately decent clubs. They were like middle of the pack Premier League clubs at one point that were talking about being in for Phillips. There was some talks about German clubs being interested in Phillips. But then he got talked into staying 2 years in a row by Jurgen Klopp for this role he was going to play. And there was never a moment to break glass. And
You think he kind of believed his own hype a little bit too?
I do. I think he believed his own hype, and I think the manager and club and supporters, like people in our comments, talking about where he can put his head
puts
next.
his head everywhere. That Phillips.
I knew it was coming. That's why I said, "Where's his head going next?" Everywhere. But I think it was a combination of reading your own hype. So we talk about like Sepp. Is he too weak-minded for his transfer cost? Maybe he looks at a guy like Nat Phillips and thinks to himself, I'm better off getting myself sold. I should be somewhere playing. And I could just be Nat Phillips playing with the under 23s on Tuesdays.
I don't like criticize the approach or what he would want to do. I can understand him saying, hey, I got to go play somewhere and then I can earn my move afterwards. I guess I'm more like the verbiage of how you comment on your value. There's so many better ways that he can kind of presented that, where he could have said, like, oh, actually that's well above and that shows me how much Liverpool values me and stuff like that. And then, like, club will decide, blah, 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 and you walk away. I know he's young, but there's a lot more ways to play that than saying, like, holy cow, that's a lot. I don't think anybody's going to give 20 for me. I mean, it's like, come on, man. Like, have a bit more, like composure about it.
So we talked about the Seps, the Carvalhos, the young players. Like, let me ask you a question because I watch it and you read the stuff in the papers. What do you do with Ben Doak? Do you keep Ben Doak? Do you loan Ben Doak out? There's rumors that there are Premier League clubs that want him to come and play like a big role. And like he's actually been kind of a bright spot in a lot of what they're saying in the training sessions. But like if you're Slot and you believe in Doak, would you rather him sitting on your bench playing 6-7 times this year and practicing with you all year? Or playing like big boy football like Elliott did and Bradley did in those years that like prepared them to come back and become members of the squad?
I mean, assuming everybody stays, I would probably loan Ben Doak if he's not going to get those opportunities. I mean, I'm not a big fan of, but we don't know Slot, right? I mean, Klopp was big on that. Klopp was big on keeping the guy, not necessarily for, he can get experience in the League Cup. We only see him in the League Cup. I mean, I think that's like the biggest misconception fans have. They're like, we don't get to see. You don't get to freaking see him. Klopp does every day at the freaking practice pitch. So That's why some players don't get loans. I mean, you get to see him, but now he doesn't get to see him. And that's what's more important if you're planning on him being part of the long-term plans. I think and we've seen it in the past, right? The guys we've loaned very, very rarely come back and play. it's usually guys that we loan to increase their market value. So they do go somewhere, they do play, and then they're like, oh yeah, this guy can play. So instead of being a 2 million sale, it becomes a 8 million, 10 million sale. So I feel like with Ben Doak, though, it really depends on where Slot sees him. But I mean, if I'm Ben Doak's dad, I'm saying, son, I would ask for a loan so you can play and get some experience and stuff. But if Slot thinks like, hey, this guy could be the future after Mo leaves and stuff like that, he could be a very reliable right winger, I would probably keep him over there. I know people criticize us because we do not loan as many players out as, for example, like Chelsea and City and stuff like that. But I think that's been because of the manager and how the manager wants to approach the young players. And you kind of categorize kids when you say, nope, I want this kid here learning from Mo. I want this kid here running at Robertson or whatever the case might be, as opposed to going to the championship, playing in Hull City and being great, but doesn't matter because when he comes over here and goes against Robertson, he's still not going to make it, or he's not going to still be able to learn from Mo. So that's kind of like a decision that Slot makes. If you ask me, like I say, I always try to answer these questions as if I'm the player, if I'm player's dad or somebody who really cares about the player, I'm probably recommending that they go somewhere to increase their value and get more playing time. Because I do agree that, people get better as they play. Like John says, Bobby Clark and McConnor possibly loan out. I almost feel like whenever we loan a player out, we don't necessarily see them in the long-term plans. And we're like, if he does it, we can always take a look again, but we're not seeing them in the immediate long-term.
I think I don't disagree with you. I do think it depends specifically on the player and where they're going and kind of the type of loan. I mean, at the time when they loaned out Divock Origi, I genuinely think they wanted him to get what they thought was additional seasoning and experience that he wasn't going to get sitting on the bench at Liverpool at a young age. And he came back and he ended up obviously coming good and having some big moments. We've seen what it did to Bradley. He went off there to Bolton that year. He was their player of the year. And I believe that had a lot to do with why he was so confident to believe when he got his chance last year that he was good.
It definitely helps the player, right? Exactly, yeah.
I do. And when we saw it with Harvey Elliott, I mean, to me, the maturation of Harvey Elliott after the loan at Blackburn was he looked a different player. Part of it was he got physically stronger. Part of it was he had to play in a man's league in the championship where he got kicked a lot. And he was like, man, they really kick a kid with a man bun and made it work. What I think about Doak is the two places I've seen Southampton and Leicester. I love the idea of Ben Doak going to a club that actually needs an attacking player that might give him starts in the Premier League. Because if he gets to go start in the Premier League, I think then you get to really kind of cut your teeth and see what you have in a player. And I think that could be really, really good for Ben Doak. I think if he gets loaned out to the championship, then maybe you stick around the season, to your point. Train against the best players in the world, fight your way into some cup matches. But if you can go get 20, 30 appearances at a Premier League level side, those amount of minutes in what could be Mo Salah's last year might allow you to let Southampton decide whether or not you have a potential replacement at right wing instead of your eyes on the training pitch and him trying to do what Mo does inside the system. And that would be my one thing. I think right where we are, this might be the right time to let a guy like Doak go do it somewhere else. You can almost watch from afar.
Depends on the conversation you have with Mo, right? I mean, if you go to Mo and be like, hey, man, this kid has a future. Stop playing 105 minutes so we can save you for the rest of the season. There'll be a lot of games where you're going to come out in like 70, 80, and we're going to try out Ben Doak out there, right? I mean, depends on like how much playing time he's going to get. What I fear with loans is I think when you send a kid like Elliott out and when you send a kid like Bradley out, where they're young and you're kind of trying to build them physically, that always pays off. And I think you build confidence. That's a good point you made. Like, when you come back with a bit more of a swagger as opposed to a young kid who just got bumped up from the like the U23s or whatever. But at the same time, it's just very hard to gauge, especially for a winger, because you can be a winger at a team where it counters and look really good, and then go to another team where you're gonna play in a lot more tight spaces and not be as good because your speed and
That's
stuff
a
like
good
that
point.
is not as effective. So it's always like a card game. I mean, same thing goes with like, you have to be able to play in a similar system. So it really depends on which team he would go to. I would rather personally see that they kind of have a conversation with Mo and say, hey, we want to save your legs. These Champions League games, somebody was talking about on the Instagram comments earlier, like with the schedule and stuff like that. We want to save your legs. So you will be coming out more in the 70, 80. Don't be pouting. We're going to put this kid in to really give you 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. At the end of the season, it'll be like you played 8 less games. I just sold it to you. Are you buying it? If you're Mo.
I'm gonna give you Mo Salah's reply. Hey, Arn, did you see what I did to the manager who had been here for 9 years, won me everything, made me a household name, and had the whole love of this city? I basically told him to bleep himself on the touchline, fought him over taking me out of a match and being pissed. If you think I'm sitting down for you in my last year here, you can go take 2 of these and sit and rotate.
See, I don't know about that. I think that's a conversation that's going to be had, and especially if there's like an extension or something like that as well, right? Because, I mean, here's another thing. If I am Liverpool and if I am doing an extension and paying you all this money, hey, man, I got to make sure you're alive in 2 years if I'm signing you for a contract. So I don't want to beat you down on like drag you into the ground playing every freaking minute. So that'll be an interesting conversation. That will be my ideal scenario. But realistically, based on what we've seen, it's probably not very likely, I admit. Which in that case, yeah, you'll probably better off like loaning him out and getting something like that. And Sadi was talking about Jones. Just give it up, dude. Jones is probably going to be your one of your penciled in starters for this midfield. The way things are looking.
The manager basically told everyone in the first press conference by bringing that player to the podium, this is my guy right now. I might not have all my guys in America, but I have a few of them. And here he is.
Yeah, I took that like that as well. Or they were like, "Hey, we brought a guy with a really strong
will say
accent.
The right things."
Yeah, or like have a strong accent, and then like so that he sounds more genuine. Like they're like, see if you guys can understand what this guy is saying to the Americans.
Somebody get Kazi up here. Someone get Kazi to do a quick clip for American
I'll be honest.
Scouting.
I mean, Kazi. I mean, I don't know. I find Kazi a lot easier to understand, for example, than maybe having been here. He's been like a little Americanized in his accent. I'm sure he won't appreciate hearing that. But like if you hear Curtis, it's definitely a lot stronger.
Oh yeah, but I think we also listen to Kazi, and what I mean by that is we read all the comments, ha ha ha. So we actually play it out in our head. So then when we hear him speak, we can actually understand what he's saying a little bit more. Because
and to be fair, half the time we're not even listening to what Kazi says, so it makes not understanding a lot easier. So, so he says, not often I agree with Gally. Really? I do on this point regarding Doc. If he goes to a championship club, send him to Leeds. I mean, it would have to be like a top team anyway, right? I mean, you're gonna send him to a team wherever he goes, where he's gonna get a lot of playing times. Many academy players sadly slipped on the ladder to lower leagues. I mean, here's the thing: they're not going to make it. There are a lot of times where everybody is like, "Oh, he's so good" and stuff like that. You can be real good, but still not be good enough because this top level of soccer is top level of soccer. Speaking of. Let's talk about this kid who was
I knew where we were going.
Freaking amazing. I just loved watching him. I just loved how he plays, not because of what he was doing and stuff like that, but he's so quick with the ball because he's not a strong kid. He has the height, but he's still like he's a boy still. You know what I mean? He has not grown into his body yet, but he plays the ball so fast and he already knows what he's going to do with the ball before the goal comes to him. Those are skills that don't come easy. Those are things that you kind of like carry on and become a really good player with. So his physical issues never came into play because nobody could even get close to him because he already knew what he was going to do with the ball. He picks the right passes. He kind of knows well to turn, take the space. Loved watching him, but at the same time, I don't know if you heard what Slot was talking about in terms of them even pulling him out of practice early to kind of protect him from his own body, if you will, that we're not going to see him anytime soon. But those skills about being quick with the ball and kind of knowing where to go, almost Messi, like you would say, Gally, right? It's like he's just as Carly Lloyd would say, he's the next Messi. But no, I really like those are skills that you kind of like, can't teach. You can get a kid to be stronger, but being able to play that fast and be that ahead of the game is really, really tough. I love seeing that.
Now, what the kid did instinctively on the pitch was amazing. The fact that Curtis Jones needed to come off after 30 minutes, which was unfortunate, right, as we talked about. But the fact that they went to this kid and not to somebody else with no fear that he had to play 60 more minutes of a friendly, it speaks volumes of what he's doing, in my opinion, on the training pitch to show confidence. Then he goes out there and he picks a few of those passes and just completely breaks down the lines. He is just like, he was pinging the ball. And to me, that was the moment that I kind of fell in line with you of the, well, that looks like Alexis McAllister is going to play deep, because that looks like something he could do. As far as him looking like Gumby or a stick figure, I think it was Darren that mentioned it. Yes, he looks, I think he looks skinnier than a stick figure. He literally looks like a guy like won a Make-A-Wish Foundation, and they're like, here, have a jersey and go out there and play. And then he goes out and plays, and they're like, oh, bleep, he's really fucking good. I think there's talent there. I also think this is why Leicester was so upset and why they felt like we kind of tapped up this kid and had his family kind of like already. They were shopping for, there were like rumors they were shopping for houses in Liverpool like half the season before. Like, this was like a done deal. And I don't care, because this kid's got immense talent. I'm not calling him Messi. Thanks, Carly Lloyd. But I am saying that, I am going to say it's been a long time since we saw a player that came up at that young of an age and that made that big of an impact. Like, yes, he's thin like Tyler Morton, but he actually looks like he could fill out. And if he fills out into a silky, smooth midfielder, I mean, it's a guy who looks like he has like top class. I hate using the word world class before someone earns it. He looks like he has top class skills.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him before. I've seen some like highlights of him like playing with the U team and stuff like that. And you always take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, just watching him out there, like I say, there are certain things that you can't teach, and I see that in him. And I was like, whoa, wow, this kid could be special. And that's the thing. Sometimes, like when you see somebody really quick and fast and stuff like that, when the body matures, sometimes, the kid's body changes and, like you lose some of those and you're not as effective. I think what makes him effective will not go away as he gets like, like a bigger and puts on more muscle and stuff like that. And I think that's why he has like a future. Matosh says, as a quote from Neoni, my consoles to the Curtis, but my idea was to get over him anyway and get in the team. We gave a lot of shit to Kwanzaa when he said that about Matip, by the way, back in the day. But hey, he earned his stop, so there's that. But
let's talk what are they supposed to say? What are they supposed to? He didn't say that, but if he did, I'd be like,
I don't even see like Mioni even saying anything. He looks like a little tiny kid that would be just, that would just like giggle and walk away if you put the camera in front of him. That's how he literally looks 10 when he was going in the game. Like last year when we saw him, it would just like look like, yeah, like somebody brought their kid and were like, can you come in and play a couple of minutes? He's real good, kind of a thing. So Trent used to be skinny as well. Yeah, I mean, yeah, look at him. He's going through, he looks like Mo almost with his photos and stuff like that. But going around signing Madrid jerseys. We're talking about that this morning. Okay, let's talk a little bit about
signed jerseys.
Yes, there you go. Kids who want jerseys can have Trent jerseys. Anan was
got to pay for them.
You do. Yes, you do have to pay for those. Real doesn't give shit away. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this. So we have the date set August 10th through August 11th, 12 noon to 12 noon the next day, 24 hours straight. You, me, Bickler, doing it all for the Carragher Foundation. We are still looking for sponsor for ours. Please pass the word. If you're a business owner, know a business owner, or just want to do it personally to support the foundation and our fundraiser, please do. We're doing like $100 to $250 per hour. And then obviously the higher the hour, the better the hour, kind of an ordeal. We're welcoming you guys to come on air, chat with us for a little bit, wake Galley up, whatever it takes at that time, so that, like, we talk a little bit. If it's your business, we can kind of talk about your business, talk about Liverpool. You can give us your take and all that kind of stuff. But we are looking for sponsors, and we will have the silent auction. You see some of the items on the screen right now. So we are taking donations as well. If you have an item that you feel like would get some bids and benefit the foundation, trying to maximize what we can pass along. They've been great with us, obviously donating some of these items right here. And then we have some other stuff to add on as well that we'll give a thanks to individually. Are you camping? Like, are you doing like mini, almost like a camp, like a training camp where you go 10 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, like a marathon runner, or no?
No.
Gonna go to this cold turkey, yeah?
No, listen, I'm gonna be fine with this thing. We're
worried about you, Gally. We're really worried about you.
First of all, I was the first one to admit I was worried.
And that's why we're worried about you.
But I also want to admit that since both you and Bickler have shown some forms of like kinks in the armor, you're like, people are really worrying about it.
Dude, people are worrying me. I wasn't worried. They were like, 24 hours is going to be tough. And I'm like, really? Like, you should be fine. But, people are making me worried.
I think we'll do all right. Do I think we'll get punch drunk? Do I think one or two of us might fall asleep for a little bit on air? Sure. But that's the beauty. Me and you are both admins, so we could mute either one of us if one of us started snoring. And then that would be that much better for the rest of the people watching, because they would just watch you sleep. Like sitting
24 hours is cake. We got plenty to talk about.
I'm not worried about being up. We've talked about, I'm worried about it being entertaining for the viewers and wanting to keep it lively and get people in and the host. So please, if you're thinking about sponsoring an hour, jump in. Like, we can pick an hour. We'll make it work. We'll get you in for 5 or 10 minutes. We can talk about topics that are interesting. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. I think we're going to preview other teams, right, around the league. We're going to do a watch along for the preview match. We're going to do a little soccer play-by-play on the FIFA game. Maybe a little.
So that was a concession, by the way. So we should cover
I heard it. I heard.
We covered this morning, where we will be doing. If you're on our Patreon, you know that Matush and I have a co-op season going, and we're in the running to win it all. And we've done it straight through. I'm pretty proud of ourselves with this. We have 4 games left, and we need 7 points to win the title. So we figured, what's better to do this live? And then you and Bickler can commentate and be color commentary. God knows it can't be any worse than the Real Betis game that we just watched, because it was horrific. The call is, who should be the commentator? Who should be color commentary?
Well, first of all, whether Matush thinks I'm talking too much or not, the truth of the matter is,
she's listening the morning show.
The truth of the matter is, it doesn't even matter, because I'll have to be the color commentator, because at least I'll show up for the gig. So, like, technical difficulties aside, I'll be there. You need one of the other. If you have neither, you need the commentator, right?
Yes.
So I feel like what it will probably be is more like a radio broadcast, because when you listen to radio broadcast, there's not really a full-time like play-by-play and color guy. They almost have to work together, because you're creating like a vision that no one can see. When it's TV, it's Peter Drury, and then every once in a while Lee Dixon says something stupid, right? Or Graham Lasso or whatever. But ultimately, I'll probably be the play-by-play guy. Bickler will add some witty retorts at times, probably insult you mostly, just take shots. And to be totally honest, it didn't bother me at all. When he cut you off this morning, on live time, he cut you off and said, well, it has to be good. I went, because Kelly's going to talk the whole time. And I literally said it out loud, and Kelly went, how do you know he was going to say that? And he did. And I was like, this is the problem. We talk all day long. All of us.
That Matush says, what's radio? You know what the problem I have with the commentator?
It's like
that's
film.
What I was like bitching about. It's like,
check the tape.
I feel like that's how it should be, but I feel like some of this TV commentary is like radio commentary. Like, let us see some of the stuff You just know they have to kind of fill every single second. It feels like it's like, dude, shut up. We're watching. Like, occasionally say something, but let us watch.
The greatest announcers in the history of sport, in all sports, are the ones that allowed moments to like be created and then speak to the importance of them. Like if you think about like great moments, and I'm not even talking soccer moments, like you think about great moments in some type of like broadcast history, like the American team winning the gold medal against the Russians at that thing. The guy doesn't talk through it. He lets it happen. And then he kind of gives his big, like, do you believe in miracles type thing. Like the great moments, like you let the moment happen and then you speak to it after. That's your part of it. You narrate it. And I think these guys now want to tell you everything you're seeing because they genuinely believe people are paying so little attention. It's required.
See, I almost feel like, I mean, I don't know because of the competition, because, you know, you're referring to days where there were specific people, like it was going to be them, like you knew who was going to be calling the game. I
The
almost
best in the
feel like,
world.
yeah, we were talking about this with my brother too, like, because it's the same thing in Turkish as well, and obviously over here and stuff like that. There are some iconic calls, right? We remember those old farts from like 20 years ago, 25 years ago, whatever the case might be. And I almost feel like everybody is trying to get that next iconic call now. So it's never natural and genuine. It's something they put in their back pocket. They're like, when LeBron gets like the most points, I'm going to say this kind of an ordeal.
They write out little index cards. Like, I don't believe that Al Michaels that night actually was ready for like, if America can win tonight, I'm going to
yes, exactly. So it's more natural. Yes.
I think it just happened, or Marv Albert was like those great Knicks moments or whatever, like in American sports, or Jack Buck in baseball. Like there's all these great announcers. There are no great American announcers in soccer, which is why we get what we get when these teams come to America. But, you know, the Aguero moment, I don't think that was written out or scripted. I know when the Celtics won the NBA title, the first one they won against the Lakers, sorry to mention, back years ago, not the first ever, the one they won back against the Kobe team. When they won, the Boston announcer, it was so fraudulent. It was terrible. And I still remember in my head, it was like banner 8, banner 17. The mission statement is mission accomplished. And I was like, go fuck yourself. And I love this team. Grew up my whole life. I waited 15 years to win another title with that. You know what I mean? Like, I love the Celtics. I went to one of the NBA Finals games that year against the Lakers in Game 2. Like, I love that team. But it was awful. Like, and I remember, and I hear it now on the radio, and I'm like, oh. And then the Red Sox won the World Series, and it was like the guy was like, "Can you believe it?" Because he couldn't. He just like lost his shit. He was just like, "Did they really just do this after all this time? We finally did."
I just wish it was a lot more like I say. I wish it was a lot more natural rather than. But
I'm with you.
You'll get all natural commentary over here. I don't know, but Gally might have some things written down, but Gally doesn't even know FIFA, so it's going to be hard for you to even prep for this if need be. So that should be interesting. That's part of one of the things we're going to do. Like I say, 24 hours. We are looking for sponsors. The silent auction is going to start on the 1st. So we'll post the links for that one. There will also be a GoFundMe. So if you just want to chip in a small amounts, they all add up and become large amounts. You'll be able to do that as well. And then once again, you can sponsor an hour over here. We would love to have every single one of these hours sponsored. And we're hoping to actually hear from Jamie later this week as well. He's on vacation. He's probably preparing, talking about going in camp. He's preparing, getting his vacation in before the season starts, because that guy probably works 100 hours a week between the league, Champions League. Yeah.
He talks a lot. He works a lot. He talks some more.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, at least, you know, I mean, maybe because he's a Liverpool player, even then, I think they're like a good duo. I think it's all about duos now, and it's like people like, you know, being able to have the banter and stuff like that. So it should be interesting. So hopefully we'll hear from Jamie as well. And then we will be back next Monday, hopefully already announcing a bunch of, I know Carragher's for example, at New York, the pub is going to be one of our sponsors already, and there'll be a bunch more lined up hopefully by them. But shoot us a message either through Facebook, Instagram, any social media. Myself, I'll throw my email in the links below. You can shoot me an email. We'll get you as a sponsor and get everything going. It's a great cause. I think this is going to be our focus moving forward. Any foundation that supports kids in one way or the other is what we want to really support. And I know they donate a lot of like money to kids' hospitals and other facilities. They keep getting, asked for things, and this is important to be able to provide funds so they can give a positive answer because they have the funds to be able to do it.
Absolutely. And honestly, just giving back to the community. And, we always talk about attaching ourselves to the club. We're trying to be the American side of this thing and give you a voice. So hopefully you will help support us, and we'll help support a great cause overseas and get things going.
Yes, looking forward to it. This should be interesting. If nothing else, Jamie says, "Who let the Mac in here?" It's YouTube, man. There's no bodyguards or bouncers at the door.
We can't police that man. We can just let him know that there are many more villainous cities in America, and I have frequented.
Yes, Jamie, please escort the gentleman outside while we wrap up the broadcast over here. But hey,
appreciate you, Jamie.
Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining us as always on Instagram Live today as well. We'll see you guys next week, and tune into our social media for more on the fundraiser and up the Reds. Next game is Wednesday. We didn't even get to talk a lot about that, but it'll be probably more of the same, and Saidu won't be happy. Matur says, living rent-free. We must be, right, for him to tune in at 9 o'clock Eastern time to just say something stupid about Liverpool, the city, and then leave. But, they don't have much to do over there. Have an awesome week, everybody, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care.